What's up everyone, this is BigPowner, and today I'm here to do a guide and also let you know just kind of what's going on for all of the followers. But this is my first guide. This is an early game guide, so this is kind of like what to work for first. That's gonna, cheaply get there. I'm not using any of the any of the jewels, nothing expensive as far as in the tree. My gear at this point is really cheap. My most expensive piece of gear is in the Indigan, which I paid like 2.5 exalts for. So that is a pretty big thing, but I mean, Saints Hauberg, I bought it like first day for like 7 chaos, which is like super cheap. Um, the other uniques in the build are super cheap, so this is definitely a budget build. I called it at the beginning of the league that not many people were going to be playing this build and that it was a good starter, and I'm really glad that I chose it. The reason why is because my league start's been horrible. In every league, my I've never had a good league start. I mean, I played an 8-hour session yesterday and went down to chaos because my drops are so bad that I had to spend currency to buy alchemies to keep on running maps. But that happens. You can have bad luck. There's going to be some people out there that have bad luck. So having a build that you can go to like this, that's going to be able to kill Awakener 8 Sirius, is going to easily be able to kill tier 16 maps, deliriums, all of that stuff. This will do everything. And I'm doing this right now in a 5 link. So I want to show a little bit of the gameplay. The disclaimer I want to give about this build is this is not an easy build to play. There's a lot of stuff going on with the build. It is extremely strong once you get good at playing it. But it is not a build that you just mash a button and, everything's just going to die. It's just not one of those builds. The better you get with the build, the better it's going to perform. Like I said, I've been struggling with currency, so I haven't been playing this build very long. Like setup like this, and then I literally didn't have the currency to redo my tree for the low life setup. My suggestion is to go for the low life setup right away. I didn't expect the low life version, the pieces for the low life to be as low as they are. I'll admit that. I expected them to be really low, but I did not expect them to be as low as they are. Honestly, like early league, my most expensive thing was the Cinder Swallow urn. Just because that kind of helps more. Honestly, it's more important pre-low life because to get mana back, to be able to keep on running. But I have used anointment on Mind Drinker, which is a cheap anointment. It's only 2 teal oils and green oil, which that's super cheap. Like that's a couple chaos for the anointment. It helps you a ton. Recover 2% mana. We get the other mana recovery. Oh, right here. 2% when you kill a cursed enemy, so you do have to have a curse, but 4% mana recovery is pretty big. Honestly, I don't really use the Cinder Swallow that much, except when I'm in one of those situations where it's like, oh shit, my energy shield's going down. This build is extremely tanky for the gear that you have. Like you've already seen, I mean, like I've got a couple uniques, but my gear is like really bad at this point. Like I haven't even blessed orbed my implicits, but you can see I have like really bad gear. I paid like under 5 chaos for almost all of my pieces of gear, besides a helm that I'm not wearing anymore that was kind of just like a placeholder until I made it there. I'm using a 3 stat a 3 stat wand. um, this is my best piece of gear, and it's not absolutely amazing, but for the build it's pretty nice. But boots, I have triple stats, but I mean they're not really good rolls. Tier 5 mana, tier 2 dual mod, which the dual mod's not even for the build. It's hit 50%. My point is my build is extremely weak right now as far as gear. I've got tier 1 life on this with tier 2 mana and tier 3 energy shield. Obviously the tier 1 life is not helping me. Why am I saying this? Because I want you to realize how strong this build is right now in a 5 link in really cheap, really cheap gear. The only thing that I've really spent very much currency on is the Cinder Swallow and the Indigan. Unless my build gets popular, I only see the Indigan going down. Since I bought mine this morning, it is now at... It's now at 1.5 exalts, and yesterday it was at 4, and then by the end of the day it was like around 3, and it's dropped an exalt today. So I would say very soon it's going to be an extremely cheap item to get unless tons of people start playing this build, which I don't see a ton of people doing this. Like I said, it's a hard to play build. I don't have that big of a following. If every person that's following me goes out and buys it, then yeah, there could be a little bit of a demand issue there. But obviously, if there's not, tens of thousands or 100,000 people playing it, only more of them are going to continue to come into the game. So I don't see that being an issue, but it'll probably be your more expensive pieces are these two. The Saints Hauberk is really cheap, and I'm going to go into crafting stuff, so the way that you'll be able to upgrade all of your other pieces besides the main pieces. But right now it looks like for probably about 3 exalts you could have comparable gear to what it is that I have, everything in this video. At market prices. The one thing that I do want to say, because I do have some PC communities, your guys' league just launched. So obviously it's going to be harder to get this. You're probably going to have to wind up playing it non-low life until you can afford it or play without then digging. Just playing the same build but increasing mana cost it is going to be the way that I played it until I could afford this, which I'm going to share my path building so that you guys can follow it. But you need to understand, if you're not playing low life, if you're not low life and you don't have the Indigan, you don't want to be doing reduced mana cost, you want to be doing increased mana cost. So that's kind of the thing about this. I'm running it at under 400 mana cost on my initial cast, but as you can see when I cast these,
my mana is spent.
The DPS just skyrockets up. Like it's a crazy skyrocket. And then as I gain more points, I'm not that high of a level, I'm 88. We're going to be going for increased duration of skills. We want 6 brands, and the reason why, which we're picking up all of them in our tree. We have one here, which this increases brand attachment, which is a pretty nice thing. And then up here, we have increased duration. And then down here is more increased duration, and I'm actually going to be going in for potency of will. But initially, you're trying to get enough ES and mana to boost up those damage and to be able to cast the scaling. The sweet point is going to be with the Indigan being able to cast 4 or 5 of these. Why is that? Because at peak cost on 4, that means my second set of castings is going to make it so that 2 of my strongest brands are going to be active, which means 4 out of the 6 brands are going to be at peak damage, which this is, with enough skill effect duration, means you're going to be able to keep up 6, with 4 of them being the highest damage quantity, basically all of the time. Right now, sometimes I don't have up 6, but also I haven't finished getting the increased skill effect duration. So it's kind of like this. And the thing is you'll see that I have this, the Lagiana Spirit. It makes casting free. And the thing about this is when to use it. So before I'm using Brand Recall, I'm teleporting onto them, and then anytime I'm using Brand Recall, I'm casting the Lagianas. The reason why is because if I cast Brand Recall, it spends mana, which messes up my rotation of recasting my brands, which this is not a good thing. The other thing is that Indigan works on a 4-second cooldown, because it says increases mana cost for recently spent, which recently spent is referring to the past 4 seconds, which when I have enough quality to raise this up, this will be just under 4 seconds, which is perfect. And the reason why is because I cast all of my brands, and then I move into a position where I can kill more stuff. I cast my brand recalls. By this point, my mana is back to full, and I can cast more brands on the next group to kill that group. And then, once again, I have mana space. I can use movement skill, cast Lagianas, and cast freely. This is the rotation that you kind of have to get used to, is this 4-second rotation of casting brands and then using recall and movement skills, which is not easy at first, especially working in your other flasks. You know, like I've got extra mana to boost up, which having a mana flask is going to make it so that, say, like on my last cast, it's like really
My
close to
mana
running
is
out my
spent.
mana. I'm going to be able to power that up to get my last cast off. So there's a lot going on, and obviously the diamond flask is I'm also using curse immunity. Curse immunity is awesome because, you know, I can run any map and I don't have to worry about that. Of course, I have to have my freeze removal with my quicksilver for the movement speed, and then I've got immunity of bleeding because that's just the most common thing that's going to wind up killing you. The cinder swallow, at the point I'm at in the build right now, I could kind of keep it or leave it. Um, Early game, it was a lot more important, but now I'm kind of at a place where, because I have 4% mana back on kill, and I'm running 4 auras, all max level, it's not it's not used as much, but it is nice in those oh shit moments when your energy shield starts dropping and you just pop that cinder swallow urn, or say I take a hit and a big hit and my defensive skill procs and I wind up getting the arcane cloak up and that eats a bunch of mana. Then popping the cinder swallow is going to ensure that I immediately am back at full mana, back at full energy shield, and I'm getting arcane cloak shields for like 6 to 7 thousand because I'm pretty much always on full mana because I regen that mana so fast, which is important for this build because everything runs on our mana. So that's kind of how the build is working. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the tree. The tree down here is really important once you have the digging. Why is that? We get massive increased mana down here, 22%, but we also get the reduced mana cost. I'm not sure if I'm going to go for this mana cost. This one's better because it's 8% mana and 4% reduced cost. My target is to be under 400 mana cost because that's where I'm able to get off 4 brands. Um, which is obviously going to depend on your mana supply. But there's a few things that are good the entire time that you're playing. The Arcane Surge is really good. This is an absolute must. Rune Binder. The reason why we absolutely have to have Rune Binder is because it makes it so that 2 brands can be attached to an enemy. This is really important for killing bosses or big tough targets because then they can have 2 brands on them, which the attachment gives on my character with the level 20 gem 130% more damage to the branded target. And obviously having double the DPS because 2 brands are attached is going to you know make them die twice as quick. So that's really important. This area right here is really good. Obviously, the chance to get the Arcane Surge isn't as big of a deal because we have the Arcane Surge in in our our link, which we don't want to take out because we have really high mana cost, so we always have Arcane Surge up. And just simply put, we have more cast speed, which is kind of important because we're constantly casting. Like, this is a really active play style. So that extra the increased cast speed and the fact that it's 1% mana regeneration per second, um, really helpful. Plus the simple fact that it's 39% more spell damage. So even right now in this point with me having a 5 link, I'm not using the lightning penetration. Once I have my 6 link, I'm able to 6 link this. I put a white socket on it so that I could rotate between chain support for mapping and lightning penetration support for bossing, which basically by bossing I only really mean like Sears 8, because pre having then digging, I was able to do Sirius, my first Sirius at Awakener 4 or 5, um, and that was without even having the damage boost from the digging. So bossing damage, now that I have this, it's not an issue as far as mapping, which, like, right now you saw how easy stuff is dying. I'm playing only high tier red maps, so the damage isn't an issue at all. Even metamorphs, they splat. And I don't have to pay attention to anything that's on them. They can have multiple health regen. They can have extra HP and extra energy shield. It doesn't matter in a 5 link in garbage gear. This build, as far as damage, is absolutely amazing. Like, it's on par. The damage right now that the build is producing is on par with the version of the build that I was playing last season in better gear. It's harder to play though. That's the reason why people weren't doing this last season. That's the reason why I didn't mess with it last season. Is because you could just sock it in the jewels, the fevered mines, and just run with it. And most people this season ain't gonna try and do this because there is a balance. When you first put the Indigan on, it's like, holy crap, like I can only cast one brand after my first, and then I'm having mana issues. Like, it takes thought to figure out a build that's working like this, but you can copy mine and it works really well. So I definitely recommend the build, but that comes with, once again, the precaution of it's going to take practice for it to work well. The other thing that I would like to say is this is definitely more of a hard hitting build. This is not a speed mapper, just simply because there's so much stuff for us to constantly be doing. Like the last 2 leagues I started Ice Shot, which is basically for map clearing. You just click and everything dies, even off-screen stuff, which is obviously way quicker than me constantly having to cast 4 brands, then use mana flasks, which I can clear maps pretty fast, even in the bad gear and tier 14, 15, 16 maps. But just simply put, because you're constantly having to recast stuff, it's not the fastest mapper. It does kill everything in the maps extremely fast, but it's not like the most efficient mapper. Like, definitely my next build is going to be some type of a speed mapper. But it's definitely very viable as far as like a cheap invest. I'm really glad that I started this because my league start, like I said, has been horrible. So if you have the currency to buy these main items, and then you can just stack, some mana, some energy shield, you're going to be good with a little bit of practice. But to make the low life build work, the Lavianga's Spirit, the Cinder Swallow, the Prism Guardian, the Ivory Tower, and the Indigan, which are kind of like the main pieces. And then you're gonna want a curse. The Assassin's Mark is actually better as far as damage. Eventually, I could wind up going dual curse. The reason, honestly, why this league I went conductivity instead of Assassin's Marks is because the Assassin's Mark rings were like an EX, 2EX, and that was with like nothing else on them that was like good for me. I couldn't even afford it. The conductivity ring cost me, I think I paid like 3 chaos for this, and it had tier 1 mana on it, so that wasn't even like really a choice for me. Which it is a big damage boost. Tier 5 is 28% elemental debuff, so it's 28%, and then it ensures that every enemy that I'm killing is cursed, which means I'm getting 2% mana back from where I showed you in the tree. Mind over matter is really important because this is making us even tankier when we take hits. 30% of the damage goes into the mana, which, because of our ascendancy choice, which the Sanctuary of Thought gives us this massive boost to our energy shield. It adds like over 3,000 energy shield to me right now. I was at like 3,400 ES when I made this swap because I got the Indigan, which is a really big deal. And it also works with the Indigan because if I didn't have the Indigan, my brand cost would be like around 700, 800, which this build is only going to work on this ascendancy. You have to be a Hierophant or it won't work, plain and simple. If you're like, I'm going to try this on some other build, not going to work. Plain and simple, will not work. There's no way to reduce the cost of the Storm brand as much as it's reduced on the Hierophant on any other build, plain and simple. So this is the only choice as far as ascendancy. If you want to play this build that I've made, it has to be in a Hierophant, and you have to have the Sanctuary of Thought. If you don't have the Sanctuary of Thought, it's just not going to work. And that's the other thing I'd like to point out. I don't even have all 4 of my ascendancies because I can't find swirling fear. Key thing here, we have the healthy mind. This is just really powerful here because we're getting this is a mana HP slots. So this winds up making it so that we just wind up getting an absolutely massive amount of mana, socketing that there over 1,000 mana. And also picking up here because we get 20% mana, while also getting 5% all resistances, 10% increased max mana here, which makes it so that if we have an extra point, you can throw it here for 10% mana because there's not that many places that we can pick up 10% mana. This is a good spot to fill in too because 10% more regeneration. If you're kind of like a little bit too high and you're not able to comfortably get off 4 brands, then you could take another point here. I don't know if I'll wind up taking it because it's running pretty good for me, but it's kind of going to be a balancing act based on your gear. So you might have to, try a point movement to get your specific gear to work. There's probably going to be a lot of changes once I start getting good gear, but this is kind of like the starter build. I always do these, give you guys a progression. I wanted to get one out in the first week, so that people could have some guidance, and then we'll see where it goes. Once again, we've got reduced costs here, which are really good because 20% mana with regeneration. And the 5% reduced cost, 5% reduced cost, mana with the reduced cost. This area right here is nice because we get increased duration on our guard skill with 20% max mana, which 20% max mana is really good. And we have more increased duration, so we got 35, 20, 35, 55, 60% increase guard skill duration, which is really nice because we do get those massive arcane cloak shields. So that's going to be really nice. As far as my links, I've explained the main link. If you've followed my other builds on the Archmage, stuff's pretty much the same. I've made a little bit of changes. I haven't even gotten everything linked up. I've gotten the most important stuff linked up. I've got the Wave of Confliction with the added lightning damage support. Why is this? It's to ensure that the elemental exposure, it procs procs from the hit. It basically guarantees that there's the most lightning damage when it hits, because that gives them a negative 25% debuff. Once again, this is something we're only going to be using on bosses, but it's such a big debuff, we definitely want to be taking that. Conductivity, I just had leveled that up. That was pre having the Moonstone Ring. Early last league, I did Curse on Hit, Curse on crit with the Orb of Storms and Conductivity. That will give you a higher debuff from the Conductivity, but like I said, this league we really want to go for this because these rings are really cheap, and we really have to make sure that everything's getting cursed because we have this 2% mana returned on kill of cursed enemies, which makes it so that the mana's just jumping back up, which is kind of important because once you start having 8,000 plus mana, it becomes really hard to keep your mana up, even running a level 20 clarity, tons of percent regen. Another thing that's going to be really good is we're going to want to take this. Last league, I didn't use this, and why is it? Because it reduces the cost of skills while on full energy shield, which would have been a downside last league because we were going for increased. We're just going all for increased cost because like a base increased cost, it's always there. We weren't using the Indignant because why would we? So we didn't want the reduced cost that came along with this. But for this league, with this build, it's actually a really strong choice because it reduces the cost, which makes it so we can get more casts off. It gives us 10 intelligence, which that's, base more mana, and like this is bugged. Like they have so many bugs since this update. It's giving the physical modifier, but it's supposed to be 2 strength gives 1 mana and 5 strength gives 1% energy shield. So that would be 5 mana and 2% increased energy shield. So you're looking at like 12% energy shield, 5 mana, 16% increased maximum mana, and these are both good. 6% mana with 5% energy shield on all of these. Those are all good points, so good place to put our points. I think I pretty much explained it. The direction of this build, once you have the main pieces, is basically going to be to just get upgraded pieces of gear, like what it is that we had last league. Obviously, I'll go more in depth in that stuff, and I'm gonna give you guys some crafting tips, do some crafting videos, which are just general crafting videos for this league, because they've introduced the most powerful crafting that we have ever seen, anything like it. I hope they don't remove it, because I think it's really cool. Like if you are willing to put the time in, you can pretty much craft any item that you want. And at the very least, I would like to teach everyone how to do that, so that if it does wind up getting removed next league or nerfed, which I don't think they will, because they added like a whole box for it. I think they kind of want people to have more, like invest time, and then you're able to craft something really cool, or have a chance to craft something really cool. But I got some cool exploits for you guys, so I'll get those videos up soon. Anyways, I hope that you like this build. If you don't like it, I mean, at least you can be like, hopefully you at least appreciate that it's a pretty cool thing that, it looked like this build was going to be pretty much dead, and it is in fact insanely strong. Um, it's just crazy how strong the build still is. It does take a lot of practice, and when you first start playing it, if if you first put the Indignant on, and you don't have a plan for where to go with it, you're just like, oh, this item is useless, and it's definitely not useless. It just needs a little bit of support items to make it actually effective in the gameplay. Um, Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this helps you. I hope you guys are excited to check out some cool crafting videos, and I hope that some of you at least are excited to try out this build. Thanks for watching. Peace.